Have you ever felt the weight of defeat, the shame of a no, of being the last one picked for the team? Imagine your worth was measured by a grade. Imagine everyone around you, teachers, peers, even your own family, looked at you and saw a failure. That was my reality. That was what the system said I was. But what if I told you that this same education system that called me stupid is now desperately trying to invest millions in my company? What if the humiliation I felt in the classroom became the fuel for a silent billion-dollar revenge? This isn't just my story. It's the story of all of us who have felt inadequate. Get ready, because what you're about to see in this video isn't just about success. It's about proof that true intelligence isn't found in books, but in your ability to believe in yourself when the whole world doubts. And at the end of this video, I'll tell you the secret behind my success. A secret they don't teach you in school. Hi, I'm Mike, and if you're here today, it's because, like me, you might feel like an outsider in some way. We grow up hearing that success comes from good grades, a degree from a prestigious school, and a secure job. But what if this formula is completely wrong? What if, in fact, your greatest strength lies in the very thing the education system considers your greatest weakness? Let's be honest. School, with its tests, rankings and grades, is a laboratory of humiliation for many. Remember that time you got a low grade and felt a lump in your throat? Or when the teacher handed the test back in front of you and everyone saw your results? I remember every detail. My report card wasn't a document. It was a sentence, a verdict that labeled me incapable. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, what was your worst grade in school and how did it make you feel? I want to read your story because we need to understand that we are not alone in this battle. And if you already identify with this, please leave your like in this video. It helps me know that we're on this journey together. My story begins in classroom 4B. To be precise, in the second semester of 7th grade. I was the kind of student who sat in the back of the room, not because I didn't care, but because I was embarrassed to raise my hand. I saw things differently. While the teachers talked about mathematical formulas and historical dates, my mind was elsewhere. I was imagining how the world really worked, how people communicated, how companies sold their products, how an idea became something real. My mind was a walking startup, but the school didn't have a curriculum for that. Instead of encouraging me, they punished me. My parents were called into meetings with the guidance counselor, who said things like, "He needs to try harder, he lacks focus," or my favorite, "He has no academic potential." These words were like knives. They not only hurt me, but also convinced me that maybe they were right. School taught me to hate learning. It took my curiosity and turned it into anxiety. I remember an algebra test. It was the final, and if I didn't get a good enough score, I would fail the year. I spent all night studying, but my brain simply wouldn't absorb those equations. On the day of the test, my heart was pounding so hard, I thought I would faint. I looked at the paper, and it was as if it were written in a foreign language. I turned in the test with my name blank, an act of quiet desperation, and the teacher called me in, front of everyone with the test in hand, and said, "You didn't even bother trying, that's disrespectful." And he handed me the test. A 0. Not a 0 for not knowing, but a 0 for giving up. And shame. Shame was my greatest companion that year. But it was in that moment of utter failure that something strange happened. I stopped caring what they thought. That 0 set me free. It told me I could no longer be measured by a system that didn't understand me. And that was when my true journey began. But how does a kid who failed everything manage to get back on his feet? What was the turning point? From now on, I'll show you how a simple idea, born from my frustration, became the first building block of an empire. And I'll reveal to you a skill you already have, but school taught you to suppress. Don't leave. The story of how I turned this little notebook of ideas into millions is the most important part, and the revelation I told you will change your way of thinking forever. And to not miss this revelation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Do you remember the little notebook I showed you in the previous block? While the other students were solving quadratic equations, I was drawing this. This wasn't a schoolwork planner, it was a map to a treasure I didn't know existed yet. After that zero that freed me, I began to dedicate myself to one thing: understanding how people connect. I wasn't good at memorizing formulas, but I was a master at observation. I'd hang out in the school cafeteria, not to socialize, but to study the groups. Who was talking to whom? What needs were no one meeting? Why were some products a hit and others a complete failure? My first startup was born from that notebook. It was a snack delivery service. I saw that seniors who had cars were the cream of the crop on the social food chain. They didn't want to go to the cafeteria where the food was bad, and the lines were long. So I had a simple idea, almost stupid in its obviousness. I bought some snacks and sweets at a wholesaler and started selling them during peak hours for a slightly higher price. The profit? A trifle, but the lesson was invaluable. My first customer was the captain of the football team, the most popular guy in school. I delivered his order in the locker room, and he looked at me in surprise. "Where did you get that from?" he asked. "It's my company," I replied with a confidence I hadn't felt before, and that's when it all took off. Word spread like wildfire. Within a few weeks, I was selling hundreds of snacks a day, but not everything was perfect. My little operation caught the attention of the teachers. They caught me selling a soda and took me to the principal's office. She told me, "You're breaking the rules. School isn't a market," and she confiscated all my inventory. I lost all the money I'd invested and all my profits. I felt the same humiliation as the report card, only with the certainty that my idea was right, but the environment was hostile. It was my first failure as an entrepreneur. I lost money, but I gained something far more valuable: proof that I wasn't a failure. My ability to observe, to connect, to solve a problem. That was my true intelligence. What school called distraction was actually my greatest strength. And here is the revelation I promised you. Your distraction can be your superpower. That hobby you enjoy in your spare time, your ability to observe people, your curiosity about something no one else cares about, these could be your greatest asset. Think about it. And if you've ever had a business idea born out of frustration, share it in the comments. I'd love to hear how you turned a problem into an opportunity. And if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to leave a comment, because your approval shows me that we are on the right path. But the story doesn't end there. After being suspended from school for selling snacks, what did I do? I locked myself in my room, and it was there in the darkness that I discovered my next big move. A decision that would set me on the path to creating the startup worth millions today. And that's what we'll talk about later. I'll tell you how I used past humiliation to build a solid foundation. After having my snack business confiscated and being seen as a problem, I became, in effect, an outsider at school. But instead of wallowing in shame, I used my time to learn on my own. While my classmates were preparing for the entrance exam, I delved into something that fascinated me: the internet. This was back when the internet was still a mystery to most people. I spent sleepless nights sitting in front of an old computer, devouring tutorials, forums, and ebooks. I wasn't learning to pass a test. I was learning because I had a purpose. School taught me that failure was the end. The internet showed me that failure was just the beginning. I started building small websites. Most were disasters. I remember my first blog about video games. It was ugly, full of errors, and no one read it. I failed again, but each failure was a new lesson. I learned to program, to design, to optimize. I didn't have a teacher to grade me, My teacher was frustrated, and my grade was a website that didn't work. And that, my friends, is the best way to learn. The turning point came when I encountered a problem we all face. You know that feeling of wanting to buy something but not knowing where to find the best deals, or being afraid of being scammed. I started noticing that people spent hours researching before making an online purchase. And my mind, the one school had called distracted, saw an opportunity. That's when I had the idea for a platform that aggregated product information, reviews, and prices in one place. A sort of internet library for consumers. And the humiliation of the past, of being ridiculed for my ideas and grades, became my greatest source of energy. I dedicated myself to this idea with a passion I had never felt for a history book. And the story of how my startup was created is a testament to resilience. I didn't have an investor, I didn't have a mentor. I just had my room, my computer, and my unwavering faith that my vision was worth more than any grade. I worked in complete anonymity for months, building the foundation of my company. And when it finally saw the light of day, success wasn't instantaneous, but it came. The deeper lesson here is this: success is not linear. School sells us the idea that life is a straight line, from test to test, from diploma to diploma. But real life is a tangle of failures, deviations, and reinventions. Your ability to bounce back, to learn from your mistakes, is your greatest asset. My story is proof of that. Think about it. What's one thing you do today, in your free time, that gives you genuine satisfaction, even if it doesn't make you money? Tell me in the comments. And if this story has inspired you to look at your own failures differently, please share this video with a friend who also needs to hear this message. Let's spread the idea that failure can be a foundation. I promised I'd tell you the secret they don't teach you in school, the secret of how my startup, born out of shame, became a target for millionaire investment. And the final revelation will shock you. Stay tuned. You can't miss the conclusion of this story. Everything I built in silence, without the validation of a professor, without the approval of a grade. My sole focus was solving a problem no one was seeing. The startup grew. From a hobby, it became a small business. From a small business, it became something that started generating buzz in the tech community. And then it exploded. We received an email. The kind of email you read 10 times to make sure it's real. It was from one of the largest venture capital firms in the country. They wanted a meeting. And that's when the most surreal scene of my life unfolded. I sat at the table, facing billionaire investors. They had my transcript in their hands. I knew it. They had my transcript, with my list of failures printed on it. But they weren't laughing. They were listening to me, they were impressed, and then one of them, the most serious one, asked me, "Your report card isn't good. How did you manage to build all this?" And that's when I gave the answer that would change everything. I said, "You're looking for the next genius, the next straight A student. I'm not him. I'm the guy who failed. I'm the guy who learned to build something from scratch without a manual. I'm the guy who understands what it's like to be rejected, because my company was born from rejection. And that's why it's going to be a success, because I know what the consumer feels. I know what it's like to be ignored." This story, which started with nothing, turned into a multi-million investment proposal. And here's the revelation. I promised you at the beginning, my success was not my revenge, it was my salvation. School taught me what I'm not. But life taught me what I really am. I'm not a product of an educational system. I'm a product of resilience, curiosity, and the ability to turn humiliation into fuel. And for you, who may be feeling exactly as I did, I want to tell you something. That failure of yours, that low grade, that no of yours, it's not the end. It's the foundation of your future. Success isn't a destination, it's your journey. No matter what the education system tells you, your worth isn't on a piece of paper. It's in your ability to get back up after every fall. And my biggest lesson for you is learn to fall in love with your own curiosity. Allow yourself to be bad at something, allow yourself to fail, and then use your creativity to find your own path. Don't let the system's mediocrity define you. True intelligence lies in knowing yourself and having the courage to be who you are. That report card is in a drawer. It reminds me of who I am not. But my company, my work, my passion, it reminds me of who I am. If you watched until the end, it's because this story touched you in some way. And to show that we're together on this journey, I want to ask you something. In the comments, I want you to tell me, what are you going to do with your next low grade? I want us to start a silent revolution where we turn failure into success. And if you like this story, don't forget to